Once you organize your software development projects and tasks, bookmark and save all useful developer resources in an organized database, and track code errors and bugs all in one place. I'm going to show you exactly how to achieve this in a custom-built Notion dashboard. Here I am inside my Notion workspace, and I have a new page created which I'm going to name Dashboard. As a software developer, I tend to organize all my work in projects. Whether it's a program I'm building for fun or work that I'm doing for a client, I always think of it as a project. Therefore, I'm going to start off by creating a new page, which I'm then going to turn into a new database and call it Projects. Now I'm going to go ahead and define some fields for this database. So every project needs to have a name, obviously, so this is what this field is here for. So we can have something like e-commerce website as a project name. And then the tags field is actually really useful because it allows you to categorize your projects and also add keywords that will help you find your projects, especially if you have a lot. It really helps improve searchability. So I'm going to have keywords related to the tech stack of a project, as well as things like full stack, the different types of projects. So full stack, front end, if it's a front end project, back end, if it's a back end project, and so on. So this just really helps, when you want to search for a project and you don't remember the exact name. Then I also want to have a GitHub repo field, which will be of type URL. So usually all my software development projects have a GitHub repo attached to them. So this is where I would copy and paste the URL of the repo once it's created. And then finally, I want to have a status field, which will indicate the stage at which my project is currently at. And this will be of type status. So this is a fairly new field type in Notion, but it's really useful because it helps you split your statuses into 3 different sections. So I can have a to-do section, an in-progress section, and a complete section. And in the to-do section, I like to have not started, which indicates that this is a project I need to start working on, as well as idea. This is a common one I use because initially some of my projects start off as ideas. And before I used to have all my ideas in a separate database, but then I realized that I was just simply copy and pasting data from the ideas database to the projects database whenever I wanted to start working on a project, and that's a waste of time. So instead, I have all my projects in one database, and if they're just an idea to start with, I have a status for it. In the in progress section, I'm going to rename in progress to building because that makes more sense in a software development context. I'm also going to have a planning stage, which is where most of my projects usually start. I'm going to add a testing stage. So this is for internal testing, basically trying to find as many bugs in my software before releasing it. And I also I usually have a beta testing stage as well. So this is when I allow end users or my clients to test the project before releasing it. And then in the complete section, I want to have done for projects that are finished, but I'm not planning on releasing them to the public. And then released for projects that are finished and I'm planning on releasing to the public or delivering to a freelance client. So that is my status field and all the different status options. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some sample data to this database. There we go. Now what's really cool about databases is that every record is actually a page. So you can open it up and start adding additional information about a project. So what I usually like to have here is a section called problem solution, where I add more information about what is the problem and how I'm planning on solving it, as well as a section called infrastructure, where I can have more information about how I'm planning on hosting the project, how much it's going to cost, and so on. And here's some sample data for these 2 sections. Now, at the heart of a software development project is always a list of tasks that you need to work on. These can be defined on the project page as to-do list items. So for example, I could go ahead and create a to-do section here and define all my tasks as to-do list items, such as plan project, right? However, this can become difficult to manage over time, especially if you have a lot of projects that you're working on simultaneously. Therefore, a much better alternative is to create a new database, especially for tasks, and form relations between your tasks and your projects. Here I am back on my dashboard page, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new page. And I'm going to turn it into a database first. I'm going to create a new database and call it tasks. Now in this database, I'm going to go ahead and define some fields. I'm going to have a name. I'm going to delete this tags field this time. And instead, I'm going to have a due date, which is going to be of type date. I'm going to have a status field, which will be of type status, but I'm only going to have these three options this time. And finally, I need to have a relation to my projects database. I'm going to add this relation, and now I can select which project I want to link this task to. So for example, I want to link it to e-commerce website. So that's the related project. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some sample data to this database. There we go. Now I also added a sort. So I'm sorting based on the due date and in ascending order. So I'm basically seeing all the recent projects first. Now another thing I like to do with tasks is have a view where I only see the tasks I need to work on. So I'm going to add a filter to this view, and I'm going to say that status has to be equal to either to do or in progress. So this automatically removes all the done tasks, so I only see the ones that I actually need to work on. And once again, I'm going to add a sort here. So it's going to be based on the due date, and it will be in ascending order. Now that the tasks database is created, I'm going to go back to the dashboard page and create a linked view of a database. My goal is to have a view of all the tasks that I need to be working on, organized in groups based on the project. This is the only thing I need to be viewing on my dashboard, as it helps me stay focused and know at an instant exactly what I need to be doing without having to search around. After trying many different Notion dashboard page setups over the years, this has been proven to be the most effective for me. So I'm going to select tasks to be the database, and I'm going to create a new empty view, which I'm going to call project tasks. Done. And I'm going to add a filter where the status is equal to either to do or in progress, because I don't want to see the done tasks. And then I'm going to group based on the related project. So now you can see that we have the projects that don't have any tasks, and I'm actually going to hide this. So currently the three projects that have active tasks are the e-commerce website, pizza order app, and Shopify inventory tracking app. And I can see all this information right on my dashboard. This is all I need to be productive. Moving on, a software developer dashboard would never be complete without an issue tracker. Personally, I hate when I have to search through log files to find errors in my software. Therefore, I like to forward all my software errors to Notion with the help of the Notion API. I'm going to start off by creating a new page, which again is going to be a database, and I'm going to create a new database, which I will call issues. For the database fields, I'm going to rename name to error. This is where I want to have the error message. I'm going to delete tags, and I'm going to add a new field called stack trace. So this will help me identify which part of the code the error came from. And finally, I'm also going to have a relation to the projects database, so I can relate an error to an actual project. Add relation. There we go. And I'm actually going to rename this field name to project, since an issue can only be related to one project. And I'm going to remove the emoji from the name so I can reference it in the code when I'm making the API call. Now I'm going to switch over to VS Code here, where I have a very basic Node.js application. This app has one function called example, and in this function I'm passing a parameter, which is an integer, and the only thing I'm doing here is checking whether the number I passed is not equal to 1. If that's the case, then I throw an error where I pass the message number is not equal to 1. And then the goal is, once I throw this error, I want it to be caught in this caught statement here, and I want to then create a record in my Notion issues database with that error message, and then the name of the function, right? So in the database, this will be the error. This will be the value that will go in the error field, and this will be the value that will go on the stack trace field. Now, this is done by calling this create database error page function, which is actually exported from this file here called errorhandling.js. In this file, the first thing I'm doing is importing the Notion JavaScript library, which you can install by running npm install @notionhq/client. And then I'm instantiating a new client by passing the token that I was able to generate by creating an integration with my Notion workspace. Detailed information on how to achieve all this can be found on the Notion API documentation. And then I have a function called create database error page, which I'm actually exporting here. And that's the way I'm able to import it in the app.js file, so I can call it here. And this function takes two parameters, so error and trace, which error is the error message that I'm generating in the code, and then the trace is the name of the function, basically my stack trace. Where is this error coming from? And then the goal is to create a record on the issues database and pass these values in error and stack trace respectively. So here, the first thing I'm doing, I'm calling the notion.pages.create function, which again is you can find in the Notion API docs. And in this function, I'm passing a database ID. So this is the ID of the issues database, which you can get by going to share and then copying the link of the database. And when you paste the link, you will see after your Notion workspace subdomain, you will see an ID. That's the ID of your database. So you just copy that and paste it here. And then in the properties is where you define, in this properties object is where you define the fields, the record fields, the database fields you want to add data to, and what is the value that each field needs to have. So in this case, I have error, stack trace, and project. Those are the three fields on my database. And for the error, I'm passing the error parameter as the value for this. For the stack trace, I'm passing the trace parameter value as the value of that field. And finally, for the relation, so for the project relation, I'm passing an ID of the record I want to relate to, which in this case is, I'm as an example, I'm using the e-commerce website project that I showed you earlier. So if I go back to my projects database, this is the one that I'm using as an example. And once again, the way to retrieve the ID of this page is by sharing and then copying the link. So here I am. If I just paste the link after your Notion workspace subdomain, you will see the page name, and then after it you will see an ID. That's the ID you need to copy in order to relate to that particular page. So I'm gonna paste that here, and that is the page ID. So that's pretty much it. So now if I go ahead and go back to the apps page, app.js page, and I run this program with 2 as a parameter to my function here. So 2 is not equal to 1. Therefore, I'm expecting to see an error in my issues database here. So I'm going to run this node app.js. Okay, and there we go, right? 2 is not equal to 1. It came from the example function, and the project it relates to is e-commerce website. Now, if I change this to 1 and I run it, I shouldn't see an error. Perfect. If I change it to 5, let's say, I'm going to see another error. 5 is not equal to 1. Now, the final thing I want to mention is that here, where I'm assigning values to the fields of the database, the syntax that I'm using each time is different, and this depends on the type of field it is. So you see here for title, the syntax is different. For rich text, the syntax is different, and for relation, the syntax is different. And depending on your fields, you might have to use other types of syntax as well. And this can all be found on the Notion API docs. So here I am on the create a page doc. And to find the syntax, you just gotta go to property values. And here you can see a list on the side with all the different field types that you can have. And by clicking on each field type, you will see the value that you need to pass to that object in order to assign a value to the field. So that's a very simple example on how to create an issue tracker in your Notion software development dashboard. Moving on, a good developer never stops learning. However, having a way to store and easily retrieve knowledge and findings is equally as important. Otherwise, you risk wasting a lot of time searching for the same information again and again. To solve this, I will create a new page and turn it into a database, which I will call resources. Now I'm going to go ahead and define some fields. So I'm going to have a name for the name of the resource, such as Node.js architecture best practices. Tags is a very important field for a resources database because I personally never remember the actual name of the resource, but if I want to find resources based on a particular topic, I can search for that and it will bring up all the resources related to it. So when it comes to tagging, I like to add as many tags as possible. And then I also like to have a type field, which will be of type select. And here I have 2 options, so information and product. Information is anything that I basically read online, or an article that I find, or a video. And product is anything that is a packaged solution. So if it's a tool, if it's a GitHub repo, or maybe like a course, like a paid course, all that is a packaged solution, and I like to refer to it as a product. Finally, I like to link some resources to projects that I'm working on. So I'm going to create a relation field here to the projects database I created earlier. And this will allow me to simply select the project that I want to link the resource to. And now with my database fields defined, I can actually open up the resource page and start adding information. So this could be a summary of something I learned while working on a project. It could be a link to a blog post, a video, or whatever else can be useful. And just like that, I now have a resources database to gather all my findings and knowledge in one place. The dashboard now has all the databases needed to help capture and track all information and data that I need to be productive. Now, since most of this data is actually related to the projects database, I want to make it easier to both relate as well as access it at a project level. Ideally, each project page should display all tasks, issues, and resources associated with it, and I should also be able to create and relate these records directly from a project page. This can be achieved using a template. So I'm going to go to projects, and I'm going to click here and select new template. This template I'm gonna call new project. I'm gonna open it up as a full page, and then under this I'm going to first of all create the two sections that I had earlier, so problem, solution, and infrastructure. I'm going to go ahead and turn this into a full width page. And now I'm going to create a linked view of the tasks database to start with. This will be a new empty view, which I'm going to call related tasks. And the filter of this view will be based on the project, so the related project. Now, what's interesting here is that since this is a template, the goal here is to dynamically populate the value of this relation based on the name of the project. And the way to do that, Notion has a really cool feature which allows you to select the name of the template, and this will dynamically populate the name you give to the page when you're creating it with the template. I'm going to show you how this works in a bit. Save for everyone. And I'm going to repeat the same process actually for issues and resources. So issues, create new empty view, related issues, filter, project, new project is the value. Save for everyone. And then I'm going to have one more for the resources database. Create new empty view, related resources, filter, projects, new project. Save for everyone. And there we have it. This is our project template. So now if I go back to my database here and I create a new project using this template, so the new project template, you can see that automatically the two sections and the related, the linked database views are automatically populated. Now what's really cool here is that I'm going to go ahead and give this a name, for example, example project. Now if I create a tasks in this linked view, you can see that it automatically gets related to this project, right? And the name of the project automatically gets populated. And the same will happen with issues. So when I create a new issue here, the project automatically gets related. And then same for the resources. So this makes it very easy to create records in all these databases and relate them to a particular project, right? You don't have to do this relation process manually each time. And also when you open up the project page, you can see all the information related to that project in one view, which is really cool. And there you have it, a complete Notion dashboard to help you be more productive and organized as a software developer. I'm also going to be sharing this Notion template for free, so if you want to get access to it and start using it today, you will find a link in the description of this video below. Other than that, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you found this video valuable, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more solution videos like this one, and let me know in the comments below what do you think of this Notion dashboard, what else you would like to see included, and of course if you have any questions. With that said, thank you for watching and I'll see you on the next one.